Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Coffee with Cade, where we're going to have a conversation, not a presentation, about starting and growing a nonprofit or support organization that supports families with infertility. We're going to wait a minute or two for people to log in. There may be folks who are at work who are taking time to join us, but we appreciate everyone for being here this morning. I'm super, super excited. We have some amazing experts and resources on today. We've got Dr. Eve Feinberg from the Northwestern University School of Medicine, and she's an expert in many different things. She's a fertility doctor. She is the executive director and CEO of the Kevin Lederer Foundation, and she is a woman who is very passionate and committed to serving families, particularly disadvantaged families with infertility. Kristen, you're on the screen right now. We also have Mr. Sean Tipton, who is at the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, this nation's leading organization that helps drive both legislation and advocacy and many, many great things for both physicians and nurses. And Eve, we lost you for a second, but basically this is the nation's leading nonprofit that provides support for all things related to family building and infertility. So I'd like to welcome both Sean and Eve to this broadcast. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Sean? Okay, he is frozen. We're going to wait for Sean to rejoin the broadcast in just a minute. So Eve, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on this. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm super glad to be able to work with you. I've known Eve for many, many years. She's a former member of the Cade Advisory Council, and we did a race with you out in Chicago. And she's just always had a real passion for supporting families with infertility. So thank you.
Thank you.
I hope that you have taken a little bit of time this summer to rest. Have you done any relaxing and anything with your family?
Well, my children were off at summer camp for a couple of weeks this summer, so I had some time to rest, relax with them out in the North Woods of Wisconsin.
Oh.
So I worked a lot, and I went to Colorado and spent some time in the mountains, which was fantastic.
That's excellent. So I think we're waiting on Sean, and hopefully he will be here in a second. Kristen, are you reaching out to Sean? Well, you know what? While he is working to rejoin us, let's go ahead and get started. So once again, welcome everyone. We're super excited to have you with us today for Coffee with Cade, where we're going to have a conversation, not a presentation. And the intent of this conversation is to talk about ways either people who are thinking about starting support organizations or who are currently running charities or support groups for families with infertility can get the support that they need so that those organizations can be around for the long term to continue providing that important work and really filling in the gap between what doctors and fertility groups and adoption agencies are able to do with families. So I'll go ahead and get started with you, Dr. Feinberg. So tell me, you are a fertility doctor, and you're not just a fertility doctor. You're one of the super mega giants in the fertility world and have helped so many families. So what made you decide to take that additional step and that additional time to start a charity?
I think it's just really hard to see so many amazing couples that you know that modern medicine can help them, but either they can't afford it or they have lapses in their insurance coverage that doesn't cover fertility. And I think it's just so frustrating to see these unbelievably amazing people sitting in front of me who I knew I could help, but they didn't have the resources to pursue treatment. And so I think that really was the inspiration, was my patients, to try to figure out ways that I could help them.
So can you tell me a little bit about the Kevin Lederer Foundation? I know that you are in Chicago, and I know that you do provide support to families, but can you give a little bit more information for those people who may be interested and who may qualify so that they may research and perhaps apply for one of your scholarships?
Sure. So the Kevin J. Lederer Life Foundation is a collaborative Chicago foundation. So when I first started this back in 2013, we started thinking, okay, we're going to raise money so that we can help people. And then it dawned on me that I was like, I don't really want to raise money to pay my own fees, right? So like as a physician, I just didn't, something about it didn't seem right or fair. So I went around both to my own fertility group, which at the time was Fertility Centers of Illinois, went to my partners with the idea of, hey, like, why don't we donate an IVF cycle so that we're not raising money to pay ourselves? And why don't we get the other fertility clinics in Chicago on board? And so we eventually put a board together and collaboratively, with the help of an executive board, went around to the different fertility clinics in Chicago and asked them to join in on our mission to help others. And so it initially started with 2 or 3 centers that each donated 1 or 2 IVF cycles per year. And now we have 12 centers in Chicago that each donate 1 to 2 IVF cycles per year. We also realize that not everyone needs IVF, and that the cost of IVF, the costs for third-party reproduction, so egg donation, sperm donation, use of a gestational carrier, could not be met simply by donating a cycle. And so we have 2 main fundraising events each year: a running event, which is being held Sunday, September 23rd, and then we have a bowling event in the spring, and the money raised from those goes directly towards the Life Grant program, which is what we call our grants. And couples can apply either to have a donated IVF cycle, or they can apply for a financial assistance grant, which is up to $10,000 to help with the cost of fertility treatment, third-party reproduction, or adoption. This year we gave out 17 grants. We gave out 12 IVF cycles, and then 5 $10,000 grants to 5 couples. So.
That's outstanding. So if someone were interested, how would they get more information about your foundation? www.lifefindsaway.org is our website. And just briefly, applications are open to all residents of Illinois and neighboring states. So basically any state that touches Illinois borders are eligible. And we do have income restrictions. The goal is to try to give help to those that are most financially in need. So you have to have a combined income of less than $150,000 to apply. Okay. Applications open in the spring, they're awarded in the summer. And then individuals or couples have 12 months to initiate treatment with that grant. Well, thanks for sharing about that. And for anyone who is either in Illinois or a neighboring state, and whether or not you have infertility and need to support yourself, or you have a friend or family member or colleague who may need that support, please jot that information down, lifefindsaway.com and .org. I'm sorry. Look into that. So thank you. Now we have Sean back. So Sean, thank you again for joining us on the call today. So you are employed at the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, which is the giant, the group that really provides care and support for all of the different groups connected with fertility and infertility. Can you tell me a little bit about ASRM and the support that you all give to organizations that are bridging the gap between fertility centers and patients?
Sure. So we are a professional organization for folks involved in the infertility field and reproductive medicine more generally. So that's physicians primarily, but also we're a little different from other kinds of.
He might be frozen.
Groups. Sorry?
I can see him.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So also nurses, mental health people. We even have attorneys and practice managers in our organization. But We are individually based for professionals in the field. We're a little beyond infertility, but infertility is one of our big focuses. So because we represent, and I think of myself as working for and on behalf of the professionals in the field, they care a lot about access to care and have a lot of frustration sometimes when patients who need their care have a difficult time getting to them. Often that's for economic reasons, but not always. And so we as an organization are really trying to take a look at that issue. What are those obstacles and how can we be of assistance in helping that? And one of the big areas that we have found is that there are a number of outstanding nonprofits really in the direct service industry or direct service space. And we're trying to figure out how to facilitate that, how to help our members connect with groups like the Cade Foundation and the Life Foundation to get those things working better together.
That's excellent. So we've got a doctor who has gone above and beyond and who's both serving patients during the day and also in her free time running a nonprofit. We've got the ASRM, a professional organization that represents so many different groups that's both doing their regular stated mission, but going above and beyond and providing care for these nonprofits that are standing in the gap, as one would say. Tell me, why is this necessary?
Well, the sad fact is we don't know exactly the extent of the problem, but we know there's a big problem with people who have a diagnosis of infertility or can't even get to a physician to get that diagnosis. But people who are having trouble having the children they want, building their families, the way they want to build their families. And of course, some of those they're going to be medical obstacles that maybe medical technology can't yet overcome. But there's a lot of those folks, if they could get access to the care, they could be taken care of. And so unfortunately in this country, we have a lot of people who don't have any health insurance. Yes. And we have a lot of people who have health insurance, but that health insurance does not include good infertility coverage. So a lot of it specifically doesn't allow for coverage for the assisted reproductive technology suite of services.
That's excellent. So Eve, I know that recently you and I were working on a study looking at some of the nonprofits that provide care. Can you tell me just a little bit about what that study showed?
Yeah, so what we did was we surveyed all infertility foundations that we could find, and we looked on Google, GuideStar, Better Business Bureau to try and identify every organization that was out there. And ASRM also had a special interest group meeting where the foundations came together and we met in person at the annual meeting last year. And what I tried to identify was, what are the different foundations doing? Who are they providing assistance to? How do individuals or couples access those services? And what type of patients are those organizations seeking to help? Are they seeking to help primarily cancer patients? Are they seeking to help primarily heterosexual couples? Are they...
Eve, I think you just, we lost you for a second there. So.
Man, I thought it was me again.
No, it wasn't you. So this is.
Wait, looks like she's trying to come back.
Okay, so as soon as she comes back, I'll bring her back into the room. So let me ask you, Sean, for the nonprofit or for the support group, because there's some people that don't go through the trouble of actually establishing a nonprofit. They may be connected with their church, or they want to just do something on their own at a community center. Do you have any pearls? We call them pearls because they're things that they're valuable information that's very valuable. Do you have any pearls? Eve is joining us again right now. For those that may just be getting started. Eve, we're going to come back to you in 1 second because Sean is going to talk a little bit about for those organizations that are just getting started. What are some things that you've seen that have gone wrong in the past, and what are some pearls that you may have to help them be able to continue to do their work both now and into the future?
I think one of the common mistakes I see is people not taking advantage of the work others have already done. Okay. So there are a lot of folks. Dr. Feinberg's got an excellent foundation. There are a number of those around the country. So the first thing is take a look and see what kind of available resources there are, maybe in your community, whether they're specific for infertility things or other sort of medical foundations or family foundations that might be of assistance. And there's a lot of knowledge out there as well. So I think sometimes there's a lot of inefficient use of resources. Everybody trying to reinvent their own wheel, or the other metaphor I use a lot is everybody doesn't have to have their own sandbox. Go look and see that what's going on in that sandbox next to you, and maybe you can just add on to their sandcastle. You don't have to build your own. You can just put your own part with one of theirs. So I think there's a lot of synergy to be gained if you take the time to see what resources are available and take advantage of those resources first, and then start filling voids that you see.
So that was actually going to be one of my questions later on. If someone's kind of at a crossroads and deciding, do I want to partner with this other group that already is established, or do I want to do my own thing? And Dr. Feinberg, if you would also comment on that, is it important that people always start their own organization, or is there room for growth for some of these existing organizations where they may be able to partner?
Yeah, I could not agree more with what Sean had said. I think looking at the power of what's being done in your community is fantastic. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had, though, with others who have expressed an interest in starting their own foundation. And I feel like part of the way that we developed our organization is to be collaborative, and really with the hope of allowing others to branch on and to be able to provide grants in the way that they see fit, partnering with us. And I can't get into details because it's still under works, but we have a large religious-based organization in Chicago that wants to provide grants to an infertility community. And we've been working with them to try to figure out a way to do like a specialty grant where couples who are eligible can apply for that specialty grant under the auspices of the Life Foundation and under the mechanism of our foundation, but yet have their own entry criteria. We have another family who lost a child to autosomal recessive polycystic kidney disease, and they're doing a grant to honor their daughter, and they're providing an IVF cycle with PGT testing to a couple that needs to use genetic testing to eliminate a single gene disorder. And so I think there are lots of ways that you can partner together to eliminate the legal fees, the financial burden of filing taxes and 990s and all of those things. If people were to work together to do it, I think there'd be a lot more efficiency in the process and a lot less duplication. I could not agree more with what Sean had said.
That sounds great. That's very important. Yeah, I want to get back to something you were talking about earlier, Eve. You were talking about and seems like it's off topic, but it actually is very much related to what we're talking about right now. Some of the things that you found in the study that we worked on, which really support what you said just now about the importance of collaborating and everyone not necessarily needing to, as Sean would say, create their own sandbox. We can work together sometimes in a common sandbox. Eve, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we found is there are a lot of organizations that are doing amazing work. I mean, truly amazing work. Cade being the leader among many of those. But I really feel like there's a lot of duplication. And when you duplicate, one of the other things that I found were a lot of the foundations had started up and then they fizzled. And a lot of them had started up and then they fizzled. And the average lifespan that I could see for a lot of these organizations was 2 or 3 years. And I think in part because it requires a tremendous amount of energy and resources to start this up, and then a tremendous amount of energy and resources.
Oh, she's gone again.
There's a lot of. I can finish her sentence for her.
Yes, go ahead.
I think she was going to talk about that. You get all the energy around founding something, and then it also you find it takes a lot of energy to keep it going.
Yes.
And one thing that Dr. Feinberg started alluding to that I think a lot of people, as they get interested and they're fired up and ready to go, and then you run into there's a lot of bureaucratic hassles and red tape
Absolutely.
involved with dealing with a nonprofit organization. And if you mess it up, the consequences can be pretty serious.
Yes.
And that's one of the real advantages of working with an existing group, because they've already crossed that hurdle. They've already dealt with the boring, unpleasant bureaucratic parts, and you can focus then on the fun service providing, raising money parts.
Absolutely. And I do know that starting a nonprofit is just a burden unto itself. Even just dealing with an annual tax audit or the different types of forms that need to be filled out on the state and the national level, that can be quite burdensome. Not to mention, if it's a nonprofit that's full-time, you have to have some other way of supporting yourself unless you are receiving a salary from the organization, and that can be really hard.
Right.
Organizations are just getting started. And I want to add that the Kevin Lederer Foundation is run by all volunteers, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So that means that, they're giving their time, their treasure, their talent, and many people cannot afford to do that. Many people need to be able to make money at whatever they do full time in order to feed their families. So I celebrate your work and the work of everyone that is connected with you, as well as those that are connected with so many other great nonprofits. So I want to open up the floor right now. If we have anyone who is watching us, who may have a question or may have some thoughts about something that was said, please feel free to send it in. I know that Dr. Feinberg and Mr. Tipton will be happy, oh my goodness, to answer your questions. But anyway, at this point, we're going to continue on. So if someone wanted to get training, so if I said, yeah, that's me, I want to do it, I feel like I was called to do this, I overcame infertility and I have a child or children right now, where can I go get training to learn about how to do this and do it well, so that within the 2 years, I'm not gone like so many others?
Looks like I better start with that one.
I'm back.
We've got Eve. She was quick,
Okay.
fast. She was really
Go ahead.
fast.
Go ahead, Dr.
But
Feinberg.
I missed a lot of your questions, Camille.
Okay, so I just said, if I am one of these people who said, this is exactly what I was looking for, I've been waiting for some information about this, I want to get started, where can I go to get some training to learn how to do this well, so that I don't make some of the mistakes that organizations that started off well-intentioned, but perhaps less prepared. What can I do? Where can I get trained?
The Cade Foundation is going to be hosting a conference. Can you hear me? It sounds funny.
I can, but we have a lot of, okay, there's no more feedback. Go ahead.
Okay.
I don't know.
And maybe I just have a bad connection. Do you want to talk a little bit about the conference?
Okay, yes. So we've got an upcoming conference, Pathways and Progress in Fertility, where the American Society for Reproductive Medicine and Dr. Feinberg and many other outstanding professionals are going to be sharing about ways where those who are already working in nonprofits or who are leading nonprofits, or those who are thinking about getting into the support space. And I want to be clear, you don't have to run a nonprofit in order to come and get good information and take away good tools from this conference. So Dr. Feinberg is actually going to be leading the session, but we do have many great people on day one of the conference. For those of you who are interested in advocacy, we've got an advocacy training opportunity that's being led by Resolve, the National Infertility Association, and PCOS Challenge, where you can learn about legislation that's coming up in the 2018-2019 legislative season. And so you'll learn about that. on Friday, November the 2nd, and on Saturday morning, there'll be several sessions, again, led by Dr. Feinberg in the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, where you can learn about fundraising. You can learn about building a board. You can learn about just different things that are going to help make that process of either starting or running and growing a nonprofit so much easier. So I'm sorry, Dr. Feinberg, did you have any additional things to share about that?
No, I think you covered it all. One of the other things that I know that we're working on at an ASRM level is developing some sort of a toolbox for some documents for how to start a non-for-profit. And so that's going to be in the works.
That's great. That's very important. Sean, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think that conference is going to be a great opportunity, and I think it's a great example of, again, working with existing organizations to try to figure out how to make things better. So, we're excited to be a part of it. We're going to, part of our advocacy team is going to be involved in that effort on Friday, and it'll be a great chance if you can get to Washington to do that. But again, don't let that be the only opportunity. There are lots of there are a lot of great organizations that spend time explicitly doing education on how to facilitate nonprofits, and it's worth your time to think about looking at those as you're trying to move this kind of thing forward.
That's great. And there will be great opportunities to network. So one of my secret hopes is that the people that are there will find each other and come up with ways to collaborate in 2019. It's going to be in November of 2018. So that will set you up nicely for some great partnerships for the new year. And I'm really, really excited. This is our first, what I would consider national conference. And I think there are going to be a lot of organizations that hopefully come get supported and are able to even serve even more families in the future. So we are actually finishing up our call right now. We've got about 3 minutes left. So again, if anyone has any questions, please send them in. This will stay up on our Facebook page, and we'll also have a link off of the Cade Foundation's YouTube page. It's just been a real pleasure speaking with you two. I know that you're extremely busy and are doing very, very important work, but I really appreciate that you took the time. Before we finish up, this is Coffee with Cade, and so we always have to ask, what's in your mug? So I will defer to you all to share first what's in your mug. Sean, what is in your mug?
I'm already sufficiently caffeinated, but I am using my now retro ASRM logo mug just to drink water.
Very nice. Okay, a throwback ASRM mug. I like it. Okay, Eve, what's in your mug?
This is the Life Foundation.
Okay, hold on one second. Okay, say that one more time.
This is the official logo of the Life Foundation, and I'm drinking coffee with Cade.
Excellent. And I am drinking ginger tea. So we are all enjoying enjoying this time, and I appreciate you all. Have a fantastic afternoon. If you guys could just wait with me for 1 second, I'm going to close out the broadcast. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on your lunch break or on your just break from whatever else you were doing today. Have a fantastic day, and we hope to see you at one of our upcoming events. Great.